we think of ourselves and our masculine traits, we often think towards the negative aspects of our masculinity. We think how let our anger, our hatred, our pettiness control us. This is valid. We don't need to act on anger, we don't need to act petty, we don't need to act controlling. We think acting these ways will always lead towards us down the path of hatred in an unending spiral towards reveling in our toxic aspects of ourselves. There are situations where these normally considered terrible traits are absolutely necessary, where they even needed. Controlling one's anger is not eliminating it. It's making sure that you only unmask that monster when absolutely necessary. The more toxic parts of masculinity are not inherently toxic. The uses by individuals who don't understand when to utilize the more masculine traits are what demonize that part of us. The partner beaters, the people obsessed with power and control, even down to their individual relationships. All of these people are using their masculine traits wrong. And this isn't even limited to men. Women are just as capable of forms of toxic masculinity because they don't know how to use it. People make masculinity toxic, not masculinity in of itself. True masculinity is those traits used to defend yourself or others, to protect them, not to accuse or punish your enemy. Say, someone attacks your mother or your brother gets angry with your father to the point of violence. You do not go too far. You restrain your brother. You protect your mother. You do not attack the opponent unless absolutely necessary. Words do not warrant physical violence or threats. Oftentimes, people will find that your silence and calm demeanor is more demanding of respect than your rage and screaming. This is what it means to be stoic. Attempts against someone you know are not proving yourself right. You are only proven that you mean to rip out a man's tongue because you fear what they have to say. And it's okay to fear what they have to say. For that person is just as capable of being wrong as anyone else. But self improvement based on words spoken that you fear are better than letting those words be drowned in your fear. As a person, you are going to hear things that you disagree with. You'll hear things that you agree with. This does not make you incapable of being wrong. All opinions have nuance. Most things are not truly black and white, but the true way to express these is to stick to your ideals in a calm and cool manner. Do not let anger control you when you encounter an opposing opinion. Do not attempt to silence them either. Simply explain why you believe differently, and if they respond in a hostile manner, that's more reflective of them than you. Plenty of this can be applied online. Disliking someone does not justify letting your anger control your actions. Stating things that you know and waiting for others to respond is. Do not intentionally provoke. Speak your mind, but do not let the reach seep on through in a negative manner. Oftentimes, people are like this way online due to a lack of individual, in real life, consequences. Telling a person to commit self deletion does not make what you believe any more true. In fact, it silences your beliefs to that person. I often worry about acting like my own father. It's a deep seated fear I have. But I also understand that my father is not what he was when he was younger, and that people can change for the better. I imagine I'm not the only one with this fear. But I had a conversation with my father recently, and I realized I'm not the only one that felt like I was hiding a demon inside me for the longest time. Of course, at the time of this conversation, I no longer felt that way. It's only a demon if you misuse it. But my father was worried he would regress into his old behaviors. He believed that I didn't have his temper. I explained to him that I, in fact, did, but I only used it when I deemed it necessary. I did not let the anger dissolve my heart. Even when enraged, I can still feel empathy for the person I am mad at to temper my actions. He does not understand that this demon is something meant to protect, not to hurt. He does not recognize when he should contain it or when he should release it to protect others. I want to teach people how to do this. But this does not mean I'm not without faults. There are ways that you guys can find that you can teach me. I wouldn't mind them being in the comments. I figured this would be obvious, but there are examples of true masculinity in fiction. Plenty of them. I can think of a few off the top of my head. We can talk about Kratos and his journey for a start. Kratos is the main character of the God of War series. He was lost in toxic masculinity. It started with his fixation on power and war. He was a Spartan general. He gave up his life and soul to Ares, the Greek god of war, in exchange for power. Ares, in turn, treated him like a plaything. The first God of War kicks off with Kratos killing his own wife and daughter due to manipulation from Ares. Ares knew Kratos was obsessed with conquering and subjugating the land of Athens, so he knew Kratos would blindly slaughter everyone there. When he realized what he had done, he had deep-seated regrets. But what Kratos had done had permanent reminders, as the ashes of his wife and daughter were permanently grafted upon his skin, letting all know that he had done a terrible deed. Although, even in the first God of War, there are cases of Kratos showcasing true masculinity, like when he fought to protect his family from haunted images of himself trying to kill them, using that rage to protect. He was at his worst in God of War 3. Oftentimes, mere words could provoke him into murder, leading to consequences for all, not just himself. He destroyed the Greek pantheon, but in doing so caused so much mortal suffering. Even then, there are cases of Kratos showcasing true masculinity, like when his fatherly protection instincts kicked in when Pandora was to sacrifice herself to give Kratos the power of hope. This overshadows how he began to use his rage to harm rather than protect. In Kratos' final act in God of War 3, he sacrifices himself to give mortals the power of hope. In God of War 4, Kratos is revealed as a stoic, strong, and quiet man. He had matured and understood the consequences of his actions when he let his rage dictate them. He also had a son named after a Spartan named Atreus. The biggest difference between this Kratos and the Kratos of the original God of War trilogy is that his understanding of rage is a tool meant to shield, not one meant to harm. That's why it is stated that he is always holding back in the new series. He also attempts to teach Atreus this lesson early on. There are consequences to killing a god. Atreus killed Magni because he spoke ill of his mother. Kratos killed Modi to keep his son safe. There's a clear difference between how the rage is utilized. There's another example that I can think of, and he comes from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm sure you guys can guess, but it's Uncle Iroh. Iroh stuck around to try to guide Zuko after Ozai absolutely traumatized him, to help him regain the honor he never lost. Ozai never intended for Zuko to return. That's why he gave him a presumably impossible task. The issue lies in Zuko, where both sides of himself possess Iroh and Ozai's traits. That's why Zuko gets sick when he truly feels conflicted. Iroh only attempts to free himself and pick up his more masculine traits to protect his surrogate son after he felt he lost his way. Zuko even worried that he was angry with him. He was not. As he said, he was just sad, as he knew that anger would not be any comfort for Zuko, and that anger should be focused on someone else. That means to do his son harm. The difference between Kratos and Iroh, I suppose, is where they began to change. Both always looked within, but Kratos never attempted to change himself for the better. He felt bad at what he was in the God of War trilogy, but it wasn't until God of War 4 that he succeeded in doing so. Iroh's turning point was the death of his son, what made him realize how pointless all this glory and pride was. Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. Another